CP is a multi-denominational group of Christians who are passionate about the growth and leadership development of youth. They accomplish this goal by providing opportunities for youth to participate in activities that push them beyond their normal comfort zone, such as hiking, rock climbing, caving, and whitewater rafting. As each of us tried these activities that stretch us physically, it highlighted our need for reaching out to a God who gives us the strength and encouragement we need to complete each task, as well as activities in our everyday life. CP sent 2 young adults, Drew Stevenson and Shannon Dahm, to lead our group for the week, who were trained in safety and in leading all the activities that the youth will be telling about in a minute. CP puts each group it leads up in various state parks throughout the state of Kentucky, depending on what activities the group has selected to do. We stayed at General Burnside Island State Park in Burnside, Kentucky. Our goals of the week were to unify the group, to encourage the youth to be leaders, to be challenged in our spiritual journeys with physical challenges that forced us to depend on God. I'm grateful to say that God helped us reach each of these goals for the week. There were 9 youth and 3 adults who joined in this adventure. Each leader and youth hero will be telling you an aspect of our week together, after which we will show you a 5-minute video with pictures to help you visualize what we'll be telling you about. Thank you for your support and prayers.
All right. One of the major aspects and points that was stressed throughout the week was quiet time, especially in the morning. And they would share a devotional with us each morning. And each day we went somewhere different. Our first day, for example, we went to the Cumberland Falls and just got to stand in awe of the power of the falls and the water and watch as the water poured over the falls. And of course they shared a devotional with us, but they would send us off for 20 minutes of quiet time to reflect, to think, to pray, whatever the youth wanted to do, or even us leaders wanted to do at that time. That was up to us. But I found that time very powerful, just to sit amongst the nature in the quietness, and also to observe the water as it just showed tremendous force and power, and found amazement in the things that God has created that we often don't take time to observe or examine. So that was one thing that I found very powerful throughout the week. Another time we did it in the cave, and we also spent some time one day at overlooking the valleys and the mountains. It was a good time just to sit and reflect. And now Andrew is going to share a little bit about the games that we played to help build us together and unify. Or Aaron, sorry.
Okay, to kind of teach us some, teamwork, community, how to play games. One of them was called Magic Carpet, and they laid down a tarp or a blanket or something, and we all had to stand on it, and we had to stay on there and then flip the thing over and continuing to stay on there. But if we stepped up, and one of us would have to stand on one leg or go blind, and so it made it continually difficult when a few of us stepped off. And then we also played another game called 220 Scratch, which was, they had a jump rope and we were all on one side, and we had to figure out a way to get us all through to the other side, and every time we would mess up, it would say scratch, and then we'd have to go back to the beginning. And so at one point, we ended up getting 4 people over, and then they said scratch, and they all had to come back, and so we had to just restart. And they also had some other games that were just to play for fun, and one of them was called camouflage. One person it's kind of like hide and seek, one person would stay and count for 30 seconds while everybody would spread out within seeing distance of that person and try and hide, and the person would have to try and pick them out from the trees or wherever they were hiding, and it was another fun game. We also played some card games with the leaders like Euchre and Rope and a few others. And it was just a lot of fun playing all those games with them.
The first activity our youth group did at Confrontation Point was an overnight hike. On Monday morning, we packed everything we needed for the hike, including clothes, sleeping bags, and flashlights into our huge internal frame backpacks. After we had devotion, we drove to the church where we were starting our hike. Right before we left, Drew appointed me leader for the day because I had said I wanted to work on leadership. This was a little scary for me because I'm not very good at directions. Nonetheless, Drew gave me a map and we headed on our way. The trail was in the woods and we followed a creek most of the way. Sometimes Drew would stop and show us a cool plant or an animal. We also did fun activities to help the time pass, like the caterpillar. The leader would stop and step off the trail, and everyone would walk past and we usually high-five them or whatever. And then the leader fills in behind the last person and the pattern continues. And we ended up doing this for about an hour. We made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches along the trail for lunch. After hiking the whole day, as leader, I picked a spot where we would be camping for the night. Being the leader for the day definitely challenged me. It was a different experience for me, and there was a lot of pressure knowing that my decisions affected everyone in the group. I also took a couple wrong turns when there were forks in the trail. At one part of the trail, a couple trees had fallen, blocking the trail and knocking down the sign that told us what trail to take. Someone who lived nearby directed us back on the right trail. The other time I took a wrong turn, Drew asked me questions that made me realize my mistake. Like, have you seen any trail markers lately? And then we ended up getting back on the right trail. This also has a spiritual parallel because even though we stray from the right path, Jesus will direct us back to the correct path.
I'm going to be talking about our overnight stay. We didn't have any tents. We left our tents back at the campsite. And I wasn't into his boots with that because I'm thinking, Lord, don't let it rain because we're going to get wet. We had tarps. We laid the one tarp down on the ground and then used the other tarp as a roof. And we didn't have any rope, so we had to, Joe and I had to use some fishing line. And he rigged it up, and I was like, oh, okay. So then I was worried about if Joe would hear me talk in my sleep. I talk in my sleep, so he didn't say anything, so I guess everything was cool. And then during the night, Anita said she heard it too. I heard a tree fall over, and I'm thinking, man, if one of these trees fall on us, we're toast. And then God's like, well, you're a Christian, you're going to die, you're going to be up here, you don't have to worry about it. So I guess I just learned to trust him and just let everything fly. And ground was hard. I lived.
I'm going to talk about the way back from the hike. We started off with breakfast in the morning and went on our way. And there's a couple times that it looked like a good path, but Matt was leading us, and it looked like the path was like less traveled, so it ended up being the right direction. So it's kind of like what God said, the way to heaven. To hell it's a wide path, and to heaven it's the narrow path. So during one of the breaks in the path, we stopped for Matt to look at the map with Drew, and Aaron had saw a big snake, and I saw this little snake that was right at Drew's feet, and I said, Drew, there's a snake. He didn't hear me. I said, Drew, you're standing on a snake. Drew, you're standing on a snake. Drew, you're standing on a snake. And then he looked, and it was a little copperhead, which is poisonous, that he had stepped right on the head. So if that had not happened, could have had some serious problems. Because baby snakes release all their venom, unlike adult snakes, because they do not know how to control their venom. And after 2 to 3 miles, we ended up getting out, and we had to wait for Joel to take Drew back to get his van from the part where we started. And Drew had forgot that his boss had taken his keys, so Joel had left, came back, and we were waiting for Drew to come back, but he never came back. So Joel took Shannon, the other leader, back to find Drew, and then their boss came where we were, and so there was a whole bunch of confusion there. And in the end, we ended up getting back to our campsite, played a couple games where we were waiting, and that's about it for the night.
On Wednesday, we went caving. Each of us were supposed to wear jeans, long-sleeve shirts or sweatshirts because of the temperature, and closed-toed shoes. We were also supposed to bring flashlights. We drove there, ate lunch, learned our safety precautions, found buddies to number off with, and put on our helmets. And finally, we walked less than half a mile to the entrance of the cave. At one point on the path before reaching the cave, the temperature dropped significantly. It was as if we had come from the sweaty outdoors and stepped into an air-conditioned building. Once we got to the cave, Shannon led us in front and told us how she knew the way through it. As we passed special markings such as graffiti and rocks shaped as animals, she'd tell us more of the story. We began to see more of the cave, and I realized it wasn't anything like I'd expected. I thought we'd be crawling the whole time, but we were able to walk through a lot of it. And I didn't know it'd be so dark and wet. I could barely see where I was stepping at first, but got used to the little lighting we had. And there were puddles of water that we usually had to step right through and get our shoes all wet and muddy. Shannon showed us the elephant next. It was a nice big rock that looked kind of like an elephant. It was our first tight squeeze. We were all given the opportunity to be birthed by the elephant. So we crawled under it and through its legs. And at this point, we bumped our heads on the rock. Our other CP staff leader, Drew, then told us that whenever we bump our heads on the rock, we had to say, "I love my helmet," because your helmet protects you so well and doesn't hurt at all. After that, Shannon led us into a huge room and led us in devotion. He also sang a few songs, and I loved it so much. The acoustics in there were phenomenal, and I wish we could have stayed there all day and sang more. But eventually we had to continue. Then Drew showed us a metal barrel in the cave. It caught water dripping from above and was about halfway full because it had holes punched in the sides for people to catch water to drink. He told us that railroad workers would come into the cave for lunch, and the water that was in the barrels was completely safe to drink, but we weren't allowed to drink it. There were slides in the cave, and they were just big groups big enough to fit your shoe in, and you went almost in a sitting position, and then sat on one foot and put the other foot in front of you, and then used your hands for balance. And those are really fun once you learn to do it right. There was one slide that was really, really big. It must have been about 25 or 30 feet long, and it was really, really fun. Finally, we got to the last stretch, and it was called the pancake. And this was the part of the cave I was expecting. It was named well. We had to lie down on our stomachs and already crawl in single or double file. It went on for a while, and I should have been scared that I was so caved in, but it was actually fun. We just kept talking to each other and saying, "I love my helmet." It slowly began to get taller, and the temperature increased. Then we saw some light and headed toward it. We had reached the outside world again, and it was hot, and we were so muddy. We laughed at how everyone looked. We had to walk back along the railroad tracks to get to our vans, and Drew said that everyone had to pick up at least 6 items of trash. And from there, it became a game to find who had the most. We reached the vans, counted the trash, changed our muddy clothes, and headed back to camp. Camping was really fun.
Okay, as part of this next experience, we're going to kill the lights and take you back to a devotional that we did in the cave, so be prepared as the lights come out. Psalms 139, 7 through 12. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, If I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me, and the light becomes night around me, even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like the day, for the darkness is light to you. Now, at this point, they had us turn off our lights and just listen. What do you hear? Water. What do you think this cave is formed by? Water. Does water seem more powerful than rock? No, what it is. Water continually shifts and erodes away the rock and creates a whole new formation. Can you think of some spiritual parallels for water in the Bible? Doesn't the Bible say that Jesus is our living water? Not only does Jesus chip away at us and create in us new hearts, He also quenches our thirst for His living water. Now put your hand in front of your face. Can you see anything? In here you might, but in the cave. Another spiritual parallel in the Bible is that Jesus calls us to be light of the world. What just happened? Can you guys see a little better? In the cave, the candle lit up the entire room that we were in. So, you are the candle, you are the light in the darkness, and you are called to be light for Jesus. But what happens when you are the only light in the darkness? What happens when you surround yourself with those who aren't shining? Can you see the light? It doesn't shine as bright. Now over time, if you surround yourself by those who are not shining, what happens? Nobody can see your light. It can even get to the point where it's snuffed out. God calls us to be light of the world, but when we do not surround ourselves with others that are helping our light shine, our own light will grow dimmer and dimmer until it is eventually no more. Now I want each of the youth and leaders to take a couple minutes to think about one way you want to grow this year. Think about one thing that you want to learn and become this year. And when you have it, I want you to say I want you to say it and then turn your light on that. One way that I wanted to grow is I wanted to be more confident in Christ and let my light shine for Him and not be so concerned about the opinions of others and what they think of me. And so, my light back.
I want to become a leader and help people to do the right thing.
I want to become more patient and also listen to what others have to say before I talk about that.
A lot of times I get caught up in life and I get busy and I just need to let God guide me through things.
I want to be able to grow in my faith and to be able to express it so other people know that I am a Christ follower.
I want to grow closer to God in my spiritual life and get to know Him even better than I have.
I want to come back being able to get all my worries
be able to not be afraid of what others think of me when I know I'm doing what's right in God's eyes.
I want to become more faithful to myself and to God by reading the Bible and becoming more Christ-like in everything that I do.
I want my light to shine for him in a dark world like it shined in the cave.
Now what just happened? The room got a lot lighter, didn't it? Every light was working together to brighten up the cave, and this is what happens when God desires us as Christians to shine, to let our light shine for Him. And then at this point, we are going to sing Amazing Grace with you guys. Verses 1, 2, and 6. We figured it's the easiest song that everybody can sing from memory, so. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. Grace has taught my heart to feel, and grace my fears relieve. How precious is that grace appeared the hour I first believed. When we've been there 10,000 years, Christ shining as the sun, we know less days to sing God's grace than when we first begun.
My group headed to the rock climbing, while the other group stayed put and started to rappel. I volunteered to go first on the rock climbing in my attempt to confront this challenging activity with confidence. After Drew got me all situated and we exchanged the voice commands, on belay, belay on, climbing, climb on. I was ready to begin. The first part was the most difficult, because the rock face sloped back a little and there weren't many places to put my hands or my feet. As soon as I would find a place to put my feet, I would look up and there wouldn't be any place to put my hands to keep me balanced. I had to lunge in order to grab onto a little nook in the rock, and there were many times I missed it and dangled from the rope attached to my harness. All I could do was steady myself and try again. After about 10 minutes of staying in the same spot, I was starting to get frustrated. But with the encouragement of Drew and the rest of the group, I was able to get past that area and cross to the top. Looking down from the top and realizing how far I had climbed gave me a great sense of accomplishment. It also made me realize that I could achieve anything, no matter how challenging it may seem with the Lord's help. Everyone who attempted the difficult climb that day made it to the top.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about rappelling. And for those of you who don't know what rappelling is, here's a brief description. You're in a harness, and you're wearing gloves, of course, in order not to get serious rope burn on your ropes. And you're holding onto the ropes that are tied to you, while slowly walking backwards down the cliff. When I first heard what rappelling was, I imagined a secret agent rappelling, all by themselves down a very rigid cliff, with a hook or something stuck somewhere at the top. And it seemed to me like it was very dangerous. What if the rope didn't hold up, or it snapped? Even then, it seemed dangerous. I still was excited when I heard that we were actually going to rappel over this trail, because I had never done it before. before, and it looked so fun to me. Thankfully, there wasn't a lot of practice and training beforehand to know how to rappel. And I knew, of course, I would be safe. After all, I was tied in by 3 different types of knots. And I was positive I wasn't going to fall and die. Plus, I knew I could trust Shannon, who was helping me. So the cliff that we were going to rappel down was about 60 feet high, and we put on helmets like the ones we wore for caving. And Shannon gave us a talk about the things we needed to know. One being how to start. After you were tied in, you put your feet on the edge of the cliff and lean back, letting your weight pull you down. But before starting, we were to ask 2 questions, like the ones we did for climbing. It was belay on belay. Then I'd ask rappelling, choose a rappel on, and off I go. By the way, a belay is a piece of equipment used in rappelling and climbing that needs to be secured. And another being how to control your speed when going down. Easy, throw your pole beside you, slowly sliding through your fingers. Then you go down. If you wanted to stop, pull a rope behind you, like you're sitting on your hand, and it should stop. And that's for the most part all you do when you're rappelling. It was actually, to my surprise, relaxing and really scary. I wanted the cliff to be taller so I'd have more time getting down. That was fun. What was fun was the push, was to push from the cliff with your feet sort of like a jogging. It was a thing to do that made the trip down the cliff more exciting. I just had to make sure my feet were out in front of me so when I swayed back to the rock, I wouldn't do face. I loved the plan so much that I wanted to go again, except for the second time when I was leaning back to start, and I leaned too far to my left and walked myself right into the right tree. That was right to the side of the cliff. That was the worst part experience, and that didn't even hurt at all. Well, maybe a little. The experience of being to rappel was amazing. I would definitely not turn down a chance to go again. Maybe a 100-foot cliff next time.
On Friday morning, we got up very early, 6:30, and we traveled 4 hours into Tennessee so we could go whitewater rafting. And the trip down there was really boring. I was very tired and I did not know what to keep up. But I was excited for the day. I was looking forward to this like all week. So we get to this place and there's all these buses and all these different people getting ready to go. And when we first got there, after we ate lunch, we went and we got all of our equipment, which would be our oars, helmets, and our life jackets. And those were really important. And after that, we got a safety talk about, what to do if you fall out. And then they're like, you won't fall out. I'm like, I won't fall out in this boat. There is no way that I'm going to stay in this boat. So after our little safety talk, we got on the bus and we traveled for about 20 minutes just to get to the place where we wanted to start. And the whole way there, they were just showing us, oh, that's where most people fall out. Oh, people fall out there too. And I was like, yay, so exciting. And so finally we got there and we got in our group, which was 7. And we got in the boat, and you have to wedge your foot into the front of you and behind you so that you don't fall out, because your feet will save you, apparently. And so we started going, and first we got in the water, he pushed us off, and we're on our way. And I was like, oh, this isn't too bad, we're doing good. And he's like, okay, there's different classes of the rapids, 1 through 6, 6 being like Niagara Falls, and 1 being nothing. And so we started off with the 3, and I was like, oh, halfway, that can't be too bad. Oh, it was interesting. It was a little bumpy. We kept going through several different rapids, and then we got to this spot where you would just get out of the boat and you would just drift down the river. It's really fun. Overall, it was a really good experience for me. It was so much fun. I would love to be a raft guide, but there's no place around here to do it. And I didn't fall out, so I think it was really fun.
When we were rafting, I was in a different boat, and there was 8 really fun. They on the helmets, I think they had stickers on them, and they put on like, I think one on, like there was one for every 10 helmets, and that meant like one out of every 10 people would fall out of the raft. So that was kind of weird. And the thing I was most scared of was like watching people get thrown out of the raft, or like I was afraid I was gonna fall out of the raft. And we were on this thing, we were on one of the rafts called Double Suck, and it's called Double Suck because if you fall out, it doubly sucks to swim there. So we were going down the river, and all of a sudden we hit this bump thing, and 2 people in our boat flew out, including one of our Confrontation Point leaders. It was really scary, but everyone was okay. And that's what really scared me the most. And other than that, it went pretty good. My paddle hit me in the face a couple times. But other than that, it was pretty scary. And we were supposed to find spiritual parallels to all the activities that we did. And I didn't think whitewater rafting was going to have a lot of spiritual parallels in it. But it was really awesome because the raft guy that we had, he shared his testimony with us, and it was really awesome because it's not like a Christian-based program or whatever. And he shared his testimony with us and how his friend had encouraged him to get closer to God, and he had just like he had been like sober for like so many months, and he had just like, it was really awesome what he told us. It was really encouraging. So I thought it was really awesome that even though I didn't think I was gonna have any spiritual thoughts or God was gonna show through whitewater rafting.
An activity that we did. One evening we had an activity at Walmart called RAGS, which means Random Acts of Grace. Our guide Drew split us up into 3 groups, and each group had $1. Each group was given $4 to bless someone any way we wanted to. My group gave all $4 to a lady in Walmart at Annie Ann's. Her response was a big smile and a God bless you. Another group went to the dollar store, bought candy, and passed it out in the parking lot. The last group put money in a greeting card, and in the card section, money in a toy and money in a picture frame for in DC. We had all kinds of responses from people, some accepting, some uncomfortable, but it was fun when the response was a smile. I think in one way or another, we all felt that we were the ones getting the blessings, not the people we gave $2 to. And then Friday evening, after a day of driving 4 hours to and from rafting, we got back to camp for dinner prep and started tearing down our tents, preparing to leave early Saturday morning. We had our sleeping bags and miscellaneous stuff to sleep under the stars. And after dinner, we met for debriefing, and the sky was clear. It looked like it was going to be a beautiful night. But then the wind started blowing, and as we were talking and sharing our day, the wind started blowing harder, and everything at our campsite started rolling. So we all ran down and grabbed our stuff, threw them in the vans, and went to the picnic shelter. And we hung up tarps because it had started to rain. We finished our debriefing, and the park ranger showed up. He told us that we needed to be out by 6 a.m. because the group was coming to use the shelter. So that night we slept on picnic tables and stayed dry. We packed up at 5:30 and left by 7 to drive back home, and all the kids went back to sleep pretty fast.
All right, now we're going to show a brief slideshow video here. So pay attention to the screen.